Hello and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Talking Football, where we look at the Bundesliga and the Premier League, and we have so much to talk about. With me here to do it, our football analyst Yoav Borovic and I24 News Marav Savir, who covers the reactions in the press. And on our show today, we will congratulate Bayern Munich for winning their third straight Bundesliga title. We'll recap the match at the Emirates Stadium, which basically gave Chelsea the title in England. And we'll look at the dismal performance by Manchester United in Goodison Park. All this and much more coming up right now. We've known it for a long time. Some will say we even knew it before the season began. This weekend it became official. Bayern Munich are, again, the Bundesliga champions. Their dominance of the German league is not really challenged, and as it looks, there's no reason to think it will change sometime soon. But Hugh Taubman and Daniel Ziri with a story.
Watching TV was the only effort required of the Bayern Munich players on Sunday. The images coming out of their TV sets gave them the news that they were the Bundesliga champions for the third consecutive season. Wolfsburg was the only team who still had the chance of catching up with the Bavarians ahead of the weekend, but they lost 1-0 to Mönchengladbach, meaning that they are now out of the race and Bayern are officially the champions when there are still 4 matches to be played. Just like in the past 2 seasons, they dominated the Bundesliga all along. In the 30 matches they played in the German league, Bayern won 24 times, drew 4 and lost just twice. Their goal difference is just as impressive, having scored 77 goals and conceding just 13. Earlier this weekend, Bayern beat Hertha Berlin 1-0 at the Allianz Arena. Bastian Schweinsteiger came up with the winner 10 minutes from time. With the German title already in their pocket, Bayern Munich will now look ahead to the next challenges: the German Cup semi-final against Borussia Dortmund, and then the emotional semi-final in the Champions League against the club where manager Pep Guardiola was born and raised.
Barcelona war eine Möglichkeit von 3.
Barcelona was just 1 out of 3 possibilities. Everybody understands how special this match is for me, for my assistant Thiago, and for my staff. I lived in Barcelona. This is where I started playing as a young player. I am here today because I was once the coach of Barcelona. We were very successful there, and now I am happy to be here in Munich. At these heights, you always play against the best teams. Now it's Barcelona. Last season was Madrid.
The Bundesliga season has been quite easy for Bayern. While their big rivals Borussia Dortmund were far from the top this season, second-place Wolfsburg had no real illusions of threatening the Bavarian machine. The German league, which not so long ago was one of the most competitive in Europe, is now basically a one-team show. Competition for Bayern Munich these days is only found in the European arena. In any case, the glaring lack of competitiveness of the championship does not seem to affect the result of the European Bayern.
They're obviously very happy with the third title. We will congratulate them. There's one thing Bayern Munich wants the most. It's the Champions League, especially for Pep Guardiola when Barcelona is on the way.
Yeah, it's a great challenge. You know, all the world will be watching the game between the two Super Bs, Bayern and Barca. And just unbelievable talent on the pitch. Bayern, every position, every player is a very good or great player. Barcelona, 3 players that are beyond great, and a coach on the one side, Pep Guardiola, the great 19 trophies since he started his career a few years ago, in 7 years, I think, just unheard of. You know, the winningest coach in Barcelona's history, now trying to win the
Avoid Barcelona from another big title.
Big title for Bayern. On the other hand, Luis Enrique, a player who was, you know, a very good player for Barcelona and Real Madrid, very young, successful coach. People are talking about Luis Enrique not having any kind of relationship with Leo Messi, but apparently it doesn't bother Messi, it doesn't bother him. They're both doing great. And Barcelona being #1 in Spain, and now in a position to win the Champions League, but still going through Bayern Munich, I think, will be maybe a bit too much, even for the great Barcelona. Just, I think it's the most riveting matchup we can think
We
of.
saw 2 years how hard it was for them.
World football.
And Merav, how's the press reacting to Bayern Munich, some recent title?
Well, a lot of them already celebrating. Some of them saying, well, there's no time to celebrate just yet. BBC, Bayern Munich, Pep Guardiola's side win club's 25th German title, saying they don't really have time to celebrate with this game against Borussia Dortmund and the Champions League matches coming up. But the players saying, quote, we'll have a magnificent party at some stage. No worries, all in good time. When we do it, it's going to be a huge celebration. Third in 3 years, absolutely going to be a huge celebration. And Goal.com, Bayern Munich crowned Bundesliga champions. They're more attributing it to Wolfsburg's slip-up, saying, you know what, if the Wolfsburg had won, they would have to wait a couple more, obviously saying it was theirs, but they only won it now because of their slip-up, and saying, comparing it to last year's team, saying last year they really dominated, they won the title in record time, saying this year they took a little bit more time, but don't worry, they're just as dominant as they were during last season.
As long as it's in their pocket, they're happy. Here are all of the weekend's results from the Bundesliga. Mainz beat Schalke 2-0 at home. Bayer Leverkusen came home with a point from Köln, following a 1-0 draw. Borussia Dortmund keep a slim hope of qualifying to the Europa League next season as they beat Eintracht Frankfurt 2-0 at the Westfalenstadion. And second place Wolfsburg conceded a last-minute goal in Mönchengladbach as the home team wins 1-0. Four matches and 12 points to go. The gap between first and second is 15 points. Champions Bayern Munich are first with 76. Wolfsburg are second with 61. Mönchengladbach may be challenging the Wolves as they're now only 4 points away in third. Bayer Leverkusen is fourth with 55 points. Now to the Premier League, and if there is one thing Jose Mourinho knows better than anyone else, it's how to get the result he needs, regardless of the playing level. Chelsea and Arsenal may be the best two teams in the Premier League, but their match at the Emirates Stadium was nothing to write home about. Chelsea can be the happier side with this goalless draw, as the gap at the top remains at 10 points with just 15 points to play. Arsene Wenger knows his club will not win the championship this season. Jose Mourinho has no problem with the fact that Arsenal fans call his team boring Chelsea.
I think boring is 10 years without a title. That's very boring. You support a club and you are waiting, and for so many years without a Premier League title, I think that's very boring.
They are not champions yet, but they will be, and you get what you deserve. They have started strong, and they made the difference in the first part of the season compared to us, for example.
Yoav, we may like Mourinho, we may not like Mourinho. We can't argue with the fact that he always gets what he wants.
Yeah, and he's a great speaker. He just nails it. He says, you're telling me I'm boring, my team is boring, not winning a championship
Look
for
at
10
what
years.
you've done for the past 10 years.
This is boring. Can't argue with a guy, although Chelsea are a boring team.
For the past month they are.
Mourinho's teams are almost always boring. That's the problem with Jose Mourinho. On the one hand, teams are very, very not exciting. On the other hand, the guy almost doesn't stop winning. So it's this is the deal. You take it, the good with the bad with Jose Mourinho. The guy is more fascinating off the field than his teams are on the field. And
saying this at the Emirates Stadium is something not anyone would do.
Yes, and he finished the game, was a great result for him. He didn't shake Arsene Wenger's hand, and then he reacted to the crowd booing his team. Doesn't matter. He will win the league easy. It's a great accomplishment. But let's not forget that Chelsea and Mourinho lost at home to PSG, being eliminated in the quarterfinals, round of 16 or quarterfinal? Round of 16. Big disappointment, even a failure, because for Jose Mourinho also, for this great coach, one of the best of all time, winning the Premier League is very nice, but not enough.
And Merav, the reactions from the press to this rather boring game we have seen at the Emirates Stadium?
Well, everybody's quoting the boring 10 years without a title, that's boring quote. So that's something that we've seen in every one of the articles talking about it. But in The Guardian, Arsenal denied Chelsea, but Jose Mourinho's side edged closer to a title, basically saying that you know, they're just delaying the inevitable. Now they'll either have to do it next Sunday at home versus Crystal Palace, or later than that the next week against Liverpool. But it's coming. They've already arranged the parade date for May 25th. No matter what, it's going to happen. Arsenal just helped in delaying it. And then in the Mirror UK, Arsenal 0, Chelsea 0. 5 things we learned. And just to save a couple some time, I'll highlight some of them. One of them, maybe John Terry should have been PFA Player of the Year. And the other one saying it's a good game, but they wouldn't live with Europe's elite.
Yeah, I would agree. Europe's elite is not. A lot of things to think for in Chelsea in the summer, same for Arsenal. And now another team that will have a lot to think about this summer is Manchester United. They'll probably make it to the Champions League next season, but with a high-profile manager and players that came in the summer, expectations were for much more than this. This weekend's performance in Goodison Park was just another example of how vulnerable this team is this season. Everton was by far the better side on the pitch, leaving the Red Devils behind 3-0. Manager Louis van Gaal saw it coming.
The warming up was not so good as usual. And then you say that in the last minutes before the game. You hope that you can recover, that you can stimulate your players, but then it is too late.
You have Manchester United lost games, lost titles when Alex Ferguson was around. I never heard Alex Ferguson say, my players came with no energy. It didn't happen when he was around.
Never happened with the great Ferguson, because what is Ferguson's greatness? 2 things. His team always looked to win, and his team always played hard. Always. If a player doesn't play hard, he doesn't play. That's Alex Ferguson's football. That's why he was so great. I think the greatest of all time in club football. Louis van Gaal, very highly regarded coach, but he's not a Ferguson. And I think Louis van Gaal, I think something's good about the 2 losses of Manchester United, because the team didn't compete for a championship the whole season, but then had a nice run towards the end when it was already
so people thought
quite
maybe things
irrelevant.
are fine.
And people started saying, oh, look at this, Van Gaal, he's really getting it together. They're really, really good. Now they lost twice, to Chelsea and to Everton 3-0. So reminds us that the team is not really so good. And not only that the team is not so good after purchasing players for £200 million, you know, the highest price of all time, but the team didn't play well this season. The season is a disappointment. Let's not forget that this season of Manchester United is a very big disappointment. And until 2 weeks ago, everybody tried to like sugarcoat it and say, no, maybe not.
And
it is.
Mirav, how's the press saying? Also, season is quite disappointing.
A lot of them quoting the very broken Louis van Gaal that we just saw in that soundbite, saying Daily Mail, Manchester United manager Louis van Gaal, I could tell the players' attitude was not right even during the warm-up. So before they even hit the pitch for regulation time, he could tell something was wrong, accusing them of lacking desire after the loss, and admitting that he was worried when he was watching them go through warm-ups, and that his staff was worried as well, not only him. And then ESPN FC, Manchester United lack incisiveness against lively Everton, saying that there was no use beating Liverpool, Tottenham, Manchester City if they let Everton walk all over you, and that they were outfought and
had a terrible season, and they're beating
Manchester United so easily.
Unbelievable.
A lot to think about in Old Trafford this summer. The fact that Arsenal and Manchester United lost points was, of course, good news for Manchester City, who won 2 matches in a row for the first time in 2 months. The citizens seemed to be on the way to an easy win as they were up 2-0 at home over Aston Villa, but the visitors reacted with 2 goals of their own. But just as it seemed we were heading for a disappointing draw, City got the late winner through Fernandinho. Manager Manuel Pellegrini knows his team could have played better, but the important thing is the 3 points.
It's not easy when you are winning 2-0 and they draw 2-2, go again for the match, and we did it, and we scored the 3rd goal, and we were not disappointed because, I repeat, we made an important mistakes in both set pieces that they scored. But I think that with this spirit, maybe another game we don't lose.
In other results from this weekend in the Premier League, Southampton and Tottenham end their match in a 2-2 draw. No goals were scored in the match between West Brom and Liverpool, and Swansea beat Newcastle 3-2. 10 points separate first from second. Chelsea are at the top with 77 points. And with a game in hand, Manchester City are second with 67. Same as Arsenal, but the Gunners are also with a game in hand. Manchester United are now down to fourth with 65 points. Further down are Liverpool and Tottenham with 58. The Merseysiders as well with one game missing. The thing you look at both managers from Manchester, Manuel Pellegrini, Louis van Gaal. Will they be there next season?
I think Van Gaal will stay, and I think Pellegrini will leave. And I'm not sure it's the right decision for both clubs. As I said, I think Van Gaal failed quite miserably for Manchester United. I do think he's a very good coach, but I think coming to England at the age 62, 63, it's a bit too hard, because it's a totally different football culture. And the expectations are so high. I think Manchester United should go to a younger coach, a coach that will stay there for many, many years, someone they believe in. I think it will be a better route because I don't see Louis van Gaal stays there for many more years and then they will have to start again with another coach. I don't think it's the best idea. Pellegrini, on the other hand, also not a young coach.
So
didn't have a good season, but he won a championship, and I like the way Manchester City play.
A lot of things to think about in the summer for Manchester. Merav Savir, Yoav Borovic, thank you very much. That's it for Talking Football this week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.